Superstore. FantasyJocks.com. SportsFix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Football season is party season at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. Everyone wins at Harry Buffalo. Every Saturday is Coors Light College Football Saturday with $6 pitchers, 4 bottles for $10, and the Buckeyes in full HD. Football season is most definitely party season, and your headquarters is Harry Buffalo North Olmsted all winter long. Harry Buffalo, join the herd. Have you gotten your copy of Cleveland's Finest yet? Highlighting the best moments, players, and media members in Cleveland sports history?
He won it! Milo hit a three-pointer on the sideline!
In-depth personal interviews with some of the top names in Cleveland sports fill the pages of this incredible book. Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee is this year's must-have book for every Cleveland sports fan. Available now at Amazon.com. Get your copy today.
Hello, Cleveland. This is WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley, and you are listening to the Sports Fix. Yeah.
Indian fever, it's catching fire with everyone. Indian fever, you can be part of the fun. You're the winner at every game. That's when the excitement begins. So catch Indian fever, be a believer with the Cleveland Indians.
Welcome back to the show. I had to play. It's been a minute. I was going through some Indians fever withdrawal too. I had to play that one. Welcome back to the Sports Fix. Matter of fact, real quick, we're gonna just pause what we're doing, and I've just got to tell you guys, you guys in the chat room, first off, need to put some cold water on those guys in the chat room over there. Calm down, fellas. Calm down. Anyways, pretty excited. I'll be telling you guys more about this in the next few days and weeks to come, but I mentioned to you guys a week and a half ago that Spreaker, one of the websites that we partner with here on the show, and they've actually really done a lot to promote the show because they've made us one of their featured programs. And well, anyways, they reached out to us with an opportunity that we were interested in taking advantage of, a business partnership. And I just actually, during the break, I just received some information back from them that they say you can hear the smile through a radio. I hope you can hear mine because it may have been, man, this, you know how sometimes things just happen? Sometimes things happen that are just, you don't even know how to explain them. This is going to be something that's definitely could allow us to do what we're doing here for quite a while to come without as many worries as I go through on a day-to-day basis. It's not a game changer in the big definition of the word, but man, in the smaller definition, it sure is, because this could be something really special. I'll be telling you guys more about it, but it's a cool business partnership opportunity that we are going to take advantage of here with Spreaker, which is not only going to bring some financial benefits, but it's going to bring some promotional benefits as well, and open us up to some more audiences. Very, very, very exciting news that just happened behind the scenes during that commercial break, and you guys get to share it live. We're rolling here, man. J-Rock back with you here, the Sports Fix. And as I said, Jeff Gorman from Indians101.com going to join us. Indians extend the contract of Terry Francona. They announced it here this morning. He had 2 years remaining on his contract. They've now made it 2 years longer, so there's now 4 years of Terry Francona. And I liked what Terry Francona said, too. He said, before I could do it, I had to call around to a couple of the guys that are going to be here for a while and say, hey, is it okay if I stick around for a little bit, you know? And apparently everybody gave it the 2 thumbs up. Terry Francona, one of the reasons that the Indians have done what they've done, and it's good to know that we don't have to, a year from now, spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks at a time going, hey, what's going to happen with Terry Francona? Oh, man, is he going to leave? What's going to happen? No, now we can get that out of the way, and for the next couple of years, we can just continue to build this Indians team. And let's talk talk about how they do that, starting with Francona and free agency, which has begun here with qualifying offers being laid out. And let's talk to Jeff Gorman from Indians101.com. He's with us every Tuesday. Jeff, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great, J-Rock. We got some good news coming for this show. We got some good news coming from the Indians, so we're kind of off to a flying start. You got to love it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that news came out here this morning, and we knew that was something that the Indians were working on there. Like I said, to me, the biggest thing about that is it eliminates what would have happened in a year. Because, you know, once you get down to the end of 1 year and you get down to that 12 months and less remaining, then it just becomes the focus of everything. You can't move past it because that's all the questions that are coming in the media. That's every game, everything it's magnified. That eliminates that. Nobody has to worry. And Terry Francona is one, in my opinion, is one of your selling features to potential free agents and guys that you may bring into your team, and that eliminates that question as well, because now people can go, hey, if I sign a 2-year, 3-year deal with the Indians, I know Terry Francona, barring anything that could happen, that, you know, we know what could happen, but barring any of that craziness, he'll be here during the length of my contract. I mean, I'm not saying that's a difference maker, but it helps. So those are good stability blocks here. And now the Indians don't have to worry. We know Terry's here, and he can dig in and invest. Not that he wasn't investing, but invest even more into being here for the next 4 years.
That's right, and it's a little bit, like you said, it's a little bit of an attraction. I mean, to a much lesser degree than, say, you know, for like players joining the Cavs to play with LeBron. It's a little bit of a thing like that because a lot of people, they go to a new city and they're like, well, what am I getting into? But when you have a manager there who has, you know, such a good track record and such a good reputation, then, you know, it takes a little bit of that uncertainty away. And then, of course, there's players around the league who have already played for Francona, and they're very happy about that, and they have good things to say about him, and they're eager to rejoin him. So, you know, that's really a good thing. Just considering, just in all of our teams, just all the instability we've had as, you know, as managers and as head coaches, you know, to have someone with, you know, Francona's track record and how well he's done in the first 2 years, and, you know, to know he's going to be around for, like, at least 4 more years, that's just really a ton more stability than we're used to in Cleveland. And that's just really a positive sign. And you can just build from there.
Absolutely. And, of course, that building begins at the top with the manager. That's back in place. Now you continue to build your roster for next season. You know, Mike Brandenburry, we've all talked about how we expect, you know, the core to go forward, but for there to be a lot of fluid pieces and maybe some moves here this offseason, trades, free agency. And I know you and I are going to talk a bit about that here in a minute. At the top of free agency are the guys with the qualifying offers. And this year, $15.3 million, I believe, is what it is. And as we've seen that affect the market. That qualifying offer is what eventually led Nick Swisher and Michael Bourne to be signed by the Indians a few years ago. So, and we've seen this past year, it leads guys to going into the regular season before they sign contracts with teams, because teams are scared off by that commitment there or vice versa. So, but this year, I wanted to talk a bit because the group of names that have gotten the qualifying offer is at a high level this year. So there are a lot of those guys are the guys that are going to be in the mix for the big money long-term contracts anyway. But a lot of those offers, no-brainers, you know, Pablo Sandoval and Scherzer and Victor Martinez, all of these guys in the last 24 hours being extended the qualifying offers to protect their clubs from at least getting some sort of compensation should they leave.
Yeah, and I know that's kind of bad news, especially as far as the Indians are concerned, especially as far as Victor Martinez goes, because I know it's always been a dream of yours and of many of us to have Martinez come back. But, you know, and when you see all the people coming out with qualifying offers, that kind of gives you a little bit of a dividing line of like, okay, who can we afford and who can we not afford? And so basically those are really kind of the really big money guys. And considering, you know, how much we're still spending, you know, on Bourne and especially Swisher, you know, we really don't have a whole lot of room to sign somebody else. So the people in that category are probably going to be pretty much above us. That's why it's going to be really important for us to very judiciously pick just the right 1 or 2 guys that can fit on this team.
like I know with Victor, a lot of people will say, well, the Dolans won't spend. But even beyond that, what you just mentioned, that's a second level now to the decision, is that even if the Indians were to say, hey, we're willing to go with a big chunk of money and make that move, but you now also will be losing a draft pick as well, which we know the Indians value those. I'm not saying that would be a deal breaker where they say we can't go forward, but that's going to be a part of that equation as well. The list of guys, by the way, that were given the qualifying offers in the last 24 hours, you've got Max Scherzer, Victor Martinez, Melky Cabrera, James Shields, Hanley Ramirez, Pablo Sandoval, Nelson Cruz, Russell Martin, Francisco Liriano, Michael Kadire, and Irvin Santana. So all of those players, if they're to get signed by a different team that they're not currently with, that team will have to forfeit their top unprotected draft pick, which for the Indians would be their first-round pick, because there's only a few clubs that have their first-round picks protected because they have the 10 worst records in baseball, and those teams are no longer allowed to give up their first-round pick. But the Indians are not in that list, so if they were to sign any of those players, they would forfeit their first-round draft pick.
Yeah, and I know that in these days in baseball, you don't think too much about your number one draft pick because we draft somebody and you don't really know who it is, and then maybe a few years later they show up or they don't. But I think that, with the situation the Indians are in, they're much more likely to strengthen themselves for the future by keeping their top draft picks and developing them and having them work out rather than, try to spend money and compete with everybody else from a financial standpoint. Because as much as the Indians can spend, even if they spend the very most they can, there are teams out there that can spend 2 or 3 times that much. But when you develop guys, coming out of your minor league system, then, the finances start to work on your side. So really, the Indians, really all the way around, would be best, suited to hang on to their number one pick and make sure that it ultimately works out, especially if it's a hitter, because that's really what the Indians need, is to get some bats coming out of their own farm system.
Yeah, and we've seen some of the teams that, when you say you're going all in, we saw Oakland make that trade. I think more along these lines with the qualifying offer. Look at Baltimore. When they picked up Ubaldo last year, they gave up their first-round draft pick because of that. Then they forfeited their next highest draft pick, which was their second-round pick, when they picked up Nelson Cruz. And so, the end result you hoped would have been going further than they went, because I'm not going to say completely mortgage the future, but you gave up in the same draft a first and a second-round pick. Those things will hurt you 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the line, as we've seen here in Cleveland with some of the bad drafts that we've had there. So that's the flip side of that, too. Is you look at like what a team like Baltimore did last year. I saw Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. For those of you guys that don't check out their site, they do a great job, not just of game coverage, that anybody does that, but of the thinking man's work of the stuff. And I'll tell you what, they had a fun article last week. I posted it out on all the Facebook pages and stuff about just what if not the advertising campaign. What if the Indians just went out and did what the fans wanted them to do this winter? Not only went out and signed Victor Martinez, but also went out and got one of the top pitchers, whether you were talking about Scherzer or Lester or Shields or one of those guys. And he had some great points, because it wasn't a fanboy article like, hey, yeah, let's go sign these big money players. It followed up with the business side, flip side of it, and I still say that window is there to follow up on the momentum of what's going on with what the Cavaliers have, because right now, Cavs fans, for better or worse, regardless of what this season ends up with, for right now, the Cavs fans feel that they have the best team that the money can buy. What I mean is, I don't mean the best team ever, but I mean they feel they're getting their money's worth out of the Cavaliers. They feel that they've got top-line players, top money spent. They think this team is investing in all in. So they feel like, hey, man, we got the best of the best here, man. And Mike's article kind of followed that up by saying, along those same lines, a couple of top-level free agents added to the true talent core that this Indians team has. The problem isn't just on the field. The problem is in the stands as well, and that maybe kickstarts. And I keep saying, think about it. Winning and attending a hot sporting event is a